Hello, true believers, and welcome back to another edition of BK's Bullets. My name is Jim, and for the third week in a row, I am going to be bringing you a review of a DC animated movie. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Suicide Squad: Hell to Pay. And I got to preface this with a couple of things. Number one, I didn't realize this movie came out in 2018 until after I had watched it, went online, and did a little bit of research in preparation for this video. I randomly picked one. My goal was to pick stuff a little bit older. This is on the newer side, but that's okay. I think this movie was awesome. Really, really good for a ton of reasons. And it really now makes me feel like I can understand why so many people did not like the Suicide Squad movie, the live action movie that took place a couple years ago, because this is so much better. This movie really had so much more characters and charisma and oomph and impact and whatever you want to call it. And I really now can say I understand why. Maybe, I don't know if people were comparing the two. I've never heard of this movie before, up until tonight when I just randomly clicked a movie to watch on Brent's Voodoo, and I picked Hell to Pay. I had no idea what it was about. I was like, oh, I know Suicide Squad. But I think that might be part of the reason why people didn't like it. But comparisons aside, this movie was really, really good. As with all of these movie reviews, I am going to be getting into plot and to spoilers and to all those wonderful things. So if you have not yet seen this movie, subscribe to this channel, comment, and come back later. And I'll still be here. By the time you come back to it, I might have done 10 more videos because I'm doing one of these each and every week. But that's okay. It'll be here when you're ready. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about this movie and what I loved about it. First and foremost, my knowledge of the DC universe is slowly evolving, right? I am really starting to learn some of the characters, and the way I know about characters is kind of odd. So, for example, the beginning of this movie starts off with the Suicide Squad, which I am largely familiar with, at least Deadshot. I know he's kind of like the main guy, and I am familiar with him primarily because of the Arrow television show, but also slightly because he was in the movie, obviously played by Will Smith. You get a bunch of these random characters on a train, and I'm like, okay, these are not like. It kind of looks like the Joker. It kind of looks like Harley Quinn. There's some other people, the Count, Dr. Vertigo or something. These random characters. I'm like, who the hell are these people? And they're hunting down Tobias Whale, which I know him from Black Lightning. And I'm like, oh, cool, Tobias. He's a cool villain. He's a big tough guy. Oh, they kill him. And I'm like, well, my one connection maybe to any villains in this movie was taken away from me because Tobias Whale is almost instantly killed. I think like 4 minutes into the movie he dies. And I'm like, oh, great, here we go. Then the rest of the Suicide Squad all gets bloodily just destroyed. They all turn on each other. The pseudo Joker guy he gets killed by his girlfriend, who's not really Harley Quinn. This Count Floyd dude, his head blows up. Everybody dies except for Deadshot. I'm like, now you got me, because one, now I know this movie is actually like an adult movie because there's cussing, there's violence, there's blood. And two, they're not afraid to mix things up. They're not afraid to have some fun with this movie. And I'm like, good. Finally, a plot I can sink my teeth into and enjoy. As the movie progresses, we learn about this magic card that, if you're holding it when you die, allows you to go to heaven. Now, in of itself, that's kind of corny, but considering all of the horrible people that are in this movie that have done horrible things, Harley Quinn, I'm reading off the screen here, Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang, Killer Frost, Copperhead, who is kind of stupid, Bronze Tiger, even honestly, Amanda Waller herself, Amanda Waller herself, right? All of these people they're all scumbags. So them getting a literal get out of jail free card actually makes a lot of sense because they're such horrible people. So I'm like, okay, I'm with this. I'm interested in this. We get Vandal Savage who comes in. Turns out he's this immortal guy. I remember him from Legends of Tomorrow. He wants the card. There were Zoom comes in. He wants the card. There's all these villains who are horrible people fighting over this card, and tons of action, tons of fighting. A lot of betrayals early on. People turning on each other. You think that they're an alliance, they're quickly not. With little injections of comedy here and there. Nothing that would make you laugh out loud, but you really get the sense that these people are the Suicide Squad. Like, this is a horrible mission. Amanda Waller is just dropping people left and right who are not like in full compliance with what she wants them to do. They are all positioning and trying to manipulate each other to come out on top, all trying to cut side deals. Killer Frost actually gets away. She actually breaks away with Zoom's help. We find out that Zoom is actually a Zoom from like another dimension or something who gets shot in the head by Batman in this alternate reality. He wants the card because he's about to die. Vandal Savage knows he's going to die. So he wants this card so when he dies, he's actually going to be okay and he can go to heaven because he's been a ruthless tyrant for, I think they said like 50,000 years or some ridiculous amount of time. Whatever. He's immortal. Yeah, you have all these characters fighting over this single possession. And it really calls into a lot of really good questions about like mortality and like who's right and who's wrong. And in a weird way, you actually start rooting for people. Like they're all criminals, they're all felons, they're all murderers, they're all using each other, they're all nuts. But yet in a weird way, you kind of want them to like be the one to win essentially. So ultimately, the showdown occurs when everybody gets together. The whole plot is revealed. Zoom is using his powers to reach into people's bodies to take this card out because it turns out Vandal Savage actually had it sewn into his body so that he can, when he dies, like the card will just be part of him. Zoom uses that thing where he like moves his hand really fast. He steals the card. Killer Frost comes in. She freezes him. They get in a huge fight. Bronze Tiger gets like cut almost to death. He cuts off Zoom's fingers. It's a bloodbath. Everybody's dying. Everybody's fighting. And honestly, it was animated well, but it was believable action. I think that's the key thing here. And I think that despite the fact that you have this magical card that's going to basically be your get out of jail free card, um, all of the story made logical sense. You could honestly understand why Zoom was working with the people he was working with and manipulating them and getting their powers to align with him so he can get the card. You could see everybody's like true sense coming out, and I thought that was a really human touch. I think that was something that was honestly missing from the movie because you really do understand the motivations of like say Bronze Tiger, for example, whose fiance died, and because he was up to no good, and the gangs retaliated on the League of Assassins retaliated on his fiance because they knew they couldn't get to him because he's this like phenomenal martial artist master. You have Killer Frost, who kind of beats the system by getting the bomb basically taken out of her, but shows her true colors and wants more money, wants more power. She starts backstabbing the team. The only one that genuinely seems to have no ulterior motive, which I think was a major, major letdown of this movie, was Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn was just nuts. She had no real character arc other than being crazy. She didn't seem to really want anything. She was just there, giddy, let's go along, let's kill people, let's have fun, let's be nutso. I think that was a big misstep. Maybe the writers put her in that role because she is so famous and she's probably the most notable character out of the crew. So maybe they put her in that role in the thought that, like, well, we want to kind of downplay her role. That's the only thing I can honestly think. That was a disappointment to me. And I have to say that Copperhead, who not really sure what his powers were other than he was into body augmenting. Apparently, he put a some sort of tail on his body. He sharpened his teeth to look like a snake, and he somehow was able to shoot acid, which was never really explained. He didn't seem very well developed either. He was definitely the throwaway character of the group that just had, I mean, at least Harley Quinn, you know who she is. This guy was really worthless. He had one throwaway action scene at the very, very end of the movie. Outside of that, he was really just a walking gag reel. He would stick his tongue out and go, eh, and scare little kids or scare people or whatever. He didn't seem that well developed. And honestly, they probably could have done better with him or just taken him out. Like I said, the Harley Quinn thing, I was definitely disappointed in. His was just straight up baffling. He honestly didn't really play much of a role. Every other person had a major arc, a major hero moment, a major point or contribution to the story. Definitely the main character being Deadshot for sure. But everybody had a motivation in this, and it was logical why they were involved in this saga, why they wanted this card, except for Copperhead, who is just a dude. But, you know, the culmination is everybody turns on each other. You see their true colors. Killer Frost is murking people left and right, making them like icicles are coming out of their head. There's this phenomenal fight between Zoom and the Bronze Tiger, where where Zoom is cutting up Bronze Tiger really fast with this little dagger. He's clearly about to die. He's channeled all this energy into his body for like his final moments. And right when he's about to finally, secure victory, he's holding the card in his hands. He gets his fingers cut off, which was just brutal. He falls down and dies after he gets lit up by Deadshot, and just one of those like Scarface type moments where he's shot for like seemingly ever. Everybody gets destroyed. In the end, Deadshot, basically to kind of one up Amanda Waller, gives the card to Bronze Tiger, who really seems to be honestly the most pure of heart out of this group, despite the fact that he has a really bad background, just like all the other ones, being a member or somehow associated with the League of Assassins. That wasn't really made entirely clear how, but clearly a bad guy if he's in the Suicide Squad, right? Anyways, the fact that he gets the card, and when he dies, he goes to heaven, essentially. This beam of light comes down and he's like purified. He gets the card, which was great. And Deadshot picks up the card quickly and hands it to Amanda Waller, who has no idea that the card was used, and she grants him his freedom. He gets to go off and pursue a relationship with his daughter, his estranged daughter. Amanda Waller thinks she wins because, she's got the card. Harley Quinn, unfortunately, like I said, her story meant nothing. She just faded into the abyss, and pretty much everybody else involved was dead or severely maimed. I like that. I thought it was really good. I would honestly not expect this to be any sort of canon. They killed off way too many characters. But I like this. This is the kind of stuff that DC needs to do and continue to do to make the stories fun. I was legitimately surprised when I saw the way that Zoom got shot, and when he pulls his mask off and you see he's actually been shot in the head by Batman. I want to see that. Brent, if there is a movie about that, you must tell me what that is. I want to watch that. I love when DC takes things to the next level. I love that they have a wealth of characters in here. Even you had Two-Face had a brief appearance in here. I love that they have a cast of villains that can be put in weird situations and watch how it unfolds, watch them all turn on each other. The real winner here was me as a fan, just taking all this in and enjoying it. But yeah, if this was trying to tell a story or a moral, it was a great story. There were a lot of twists and turns. Every loose end was really tied up in a very convincing fashion, in a very believable fashion. And it didn't really overstay its welcome. I want to say it was like an hour and 20 minutes runtime. It was just a good bite-sized story with enough hero moments, enough personality moments, and definitely enough action to wrap everything up in a bow. So if this is what DC cartoons have evolved into, clearly this came out just a few years ago, I think they're in a really good place, and I think this is their bread and butter. I think their movies and their live action stuff, not so hot. It really doesn't work. But clearly, they've touched, at least me, they've touched on this nerve, this excitement of saying, hey, you know what? As fun and as cutesy as we're going to make Marvel and ha ha ha, we're going to laugh and have these goofy hero moments, we're instead going to release a movie that is dark and gritty and shows you kind of the no kidding nonsense that happens in this universe. So, thumbs up, okay, whatever you want to say from me. I love this movie. I think Batman Mask of the Phantasm is still probably my favorite animated movie that I've seen. I've only seen three so far. Not that I'm going to rank them each week. As I said, I think the Harley Quinn thing was a little bizarre, and I wish we had more of a soundtrack or more of a distinct ambiance outside of just the insane violence and gunshots and whatever. I was just actually listening today, I was playing some games earlier, to the Judge Dredd soundtrack, Dredd 3D. And I was amazed by the fact that as I'm listening to the soundtrack, I can remember scenes from the movie that pace it to the action. And even though it's been about a month now since I watched Batman Mask of the Phantasm, I still distinctly remember the music and the scenes that accompanied that. And I think in a month or so from now, I'm not going to remember any of the music in this, if there was really any, honestly. The action was phenomenal. The story was phenomenal. I think it needed that last little piece to tie everything together. But like I said, if this is where we're going, if this is the direction we're going to take with DC animated stuff, and this is where the future of this brand lies, I think they're in a phenomenal position, and they definitely have a fan in me. So what I need from you guys, leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on this movie. And while you're down there, make sure you subscribe. Brent could definitely use the subs. We're trying to help him build up his channel. And I will be back again next week. I don't know what it'll be to talk about. Obviously a DC movie, but you'll have to come back next week and find out which one. With that, I will be signing off. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys in the funny pages.